On a typical March morning in 2012, 15-year-old Mae LaMar got ready for school, not knowing that her life was about to change forever. After giving her mom a warm goodbye, Sierra started her usual short walk to the bus stop in the quiet town of Morgan Hill, California. But in just a few minutes, something went terribly wrong. Mae LaMar was born on October 19, 1996, in Fremont, California. She was Marlene's second child, and she already had a daughter, Danielle, who was 6 years older than Sierra. Sierra was known for her fun-loving and cheerful nature. Her teachers often described her as the class clown, always making others laugh without causing any trouble. Friends and family recall her as a confident young girl who had a knack for instilling that same confidence in those around her. From a young age, she enjoyed physical activities like dancing, and during her teenage years, she became involved in her school's cheerleading team. She also had a love for animated movies and often went to the cinema with her father, sharing this passion together. Sierra's parents divorced when she was still a child, and shortly afterward, Marlene began dating someone new. A couple of years later, Sierra moved to Morgan Hill, a city in the San Francisco Bay Area, with her mother and her mother's new partner. Meanwhile, her father remained in Fremont, and her older sister was attending college in Sacramento. Like many girls her age, Sierra was reluctant to leave behind her friends and the life she had always known. She also had reservations about her mother living with someone she wasn't married to. Despite these family challenges, Sierra's outgoing personality and positive energy helped her fit in easily at her new high school. She quickly became part of the cheerleading team and made many new friends while still keeping in touch with her old friends in Fremont, visiting them often since they were only an hour's drive away. Although she wasn't entirely happy with the move or her mother's new relationship, Sierra, then 15, maintained a good relationship with Marlene, often speaking frankly with her. She also had a close bond with her older sister, calling her several times a week to talk about school, friends, and the boys she liked. Just as Sierra was beginning to settle into her new life, an unexpected event shattered her dreams and future plans, plunging her family into a nightmare with no apparent end in sight. March 16, 2012, started like any other day. Sierra woke up, got ready for school, took a selfie, and uploaded it to her online diary, where she posted pictures almost daily. She then said goodbye to her mother, as was her routine every morning, giving her a hug and telling her she loved her before heading to the nearby bus stop. Later in the day, Marlene sent a few text messages to Sierra, reminding her of the chores she needed to do after school. When Sierra didn't respond, Marlene assumed her daughter was simply busy with schoolwork. After finishing work at 3:45 p.m., Marlene called Sierra to make sure everything was okay, but there was no answer. It wasn't until 6 p.m. when the school's automated attendance reporting system sent an email to Marlene that she realized Sierra had never made it to school. Alarmed, Marlene called 911 to report her daughter as missing. Unfortunately, crucial hours had been lost between Sierra's disappearance and the notification to the authorities. Upon receiving the report, The police first checked the school bus surveillance footage and discovered that Sierra never boarded the bus. This led them to conclude that something had happened between her house and the bus stop. Security footage from previous days provided no clues, so the search began in the area. Initially, the Santa Clara County Sheriff's Office treated Sierra's case as a standard missing person report, as there was no evidence suggesting foul play. However, over the next few days, evidence began to emerge that indicated otherwise. On March 17th, Sierra's cell phone was found near a road intersection in Morgan Hill, about 2 miles from her home, seemingly tossed from a vehicle. The following day, a pink Juicy Couture bag belonging to Sierra was discovered 2 intersections away, abandoned by the roadside. The bag contained neatly folded clothes, including a pair of jeans and a shirt, along with all of Sierra's documents and the $5 she had been given for lunch. Everything appeared untouched. In the days following Sierra's disappearance, a massive volunteer search was organized. The area around Sierra's home and the bus stop where she was last seen was rugged and challenging, with fields, hills, reservoirs, forests, ravines, and dense brush. The search focused on finding any evidence that might indicate a crime. Both authorities and volunteers worked tirelessly day after day, determined to find clues that could lead to Sierra. During the daily search efforts, approximately 150 items were discovered that could potentially be considered clues. One of these items was a box labeled handcuffs and used condoms, found by a volunteer about a mile from Sierra's bus stop. However, it was unclear if this discovery was related to Sierra's disappearance, as the area was known to be a popular hangout spot for teenagers who would often gather there to drink and engage in other activities. On March 20th, Sierra was officially classified as a missing person under the category of abduction, meaning someone had taken her against her will, which elevated the importance of the case. A forensic examination of Sierra's phone and personal computer revealed nothing useful, but investigators insisted on accounting for the whereabouts of all registered sex offenders in the area at the time of Sierra's disappearance. Surprisingly, among those on the list was Sierra's own father. Back in 2009, Steve had faced at least 10 counts of child molestation that occurred 5 years earlier. He pleaded guilty to one charge involving the sexual abuse of 3 of Sierra's friends, aged 8 to 9, during a sleepover at his home, and he served a year in jail. This was the real reason why Sierra had moved in with her mother, as her father was legally prohibited from living alone with a minor. However, Sierra's father was quickly ruled out as a suspect. Investigators found nothing in Sierra's family life to suggest she might have run away voluntarily. The disappearance of Sierra deeply affected the community, and she soon became known as everyone's daughter. While the police investigation progressed, volunteers continued their search efforts. On March 28th, DNA found on Sierra's jeans was matched to a man named Antolin Garcia Torres, 21 years old. Antolin worked at a local supermarket and lived in a trailer park about 8 miles from Sierra's home with his pregnant girlfriend, their 18-month-old baby, and his mother. During the investigation into Antolin, authorities uncovered that on 3 separate occasions, women had reported to the police that someone had tried to abduct them from parking lots at the supermarket where Antolin worked. One of the alleged victims claimed she had tried to defend herself with a pocket knife, but the attacker disarmed her and held the blade to her throat. Each of these women reported that the kidnapping attempts were thwarted by their screams or the presence of nearby people, though none of them had identified Antolin as the perpetrator. During one of the attacks, Antolin dropped a stun gun, which, upon analysis, was found to have his fingerprint on the battery. Antolin also had a criminal record that included felony assault and a charge of sexual relations with a minor in 2010. After this discovery, the police placed him under 24-hour surveillance. They also reviewed security footage from the trailer park where he lived and saw his red Volkswagen Jetta leaving the area just 15 minutes before Sierra left her home to go to the bus stop. The same vehicle was captured on surveillance footage in the area where Sierra was last seen on March 16th. The police brought Antolin in for questioning, but he claimed that after leaving his home on the day of Sierra's disappearance, he went fishing alone. With no witnesses or additional evidence to corroborate his story, the police asked him directly how his DNA could have been found on Sierra's belongings. Antolin's explanation was that he often pleasured himself in his car and used tissues to clean up afterward. He speculated that he might have thrown one of these tissues out the window, which could have ended up in Sierra's bag. However, the police had not disclosed the type of sample from which the DNA was extracted, so Antolin had incriminated himself by assuming it was related to something sexual. Naturally, the investigators did not believe his excuse. Several witnesses reported seeing a car matching the description of Antolin's near the bus stop at the time Sierra was believed to have disappeared. As a result, on April 7th, authorities obtained a search warrant for Antolin's vehicle. During the search, they found one of Sierra's hairs entangled in a rope in the trunk along with her fingerprints on the rear door handle. In parallel, the police began using cadaver dogs as they continued searching for Sierra, hoping to find any evidence that could assist in the investigation. Following the discoveries in his vehicle and 2 months of surveillance, on May 21, 2012, the police arrested Antolin for the abduction and suspected murder of Mae LaMar. The case gained national attention and was even featured on an episode of America's Most Wanted. To commemorate 1 year since Sierra's disappearance, the community of Morgan Hill organized a tribute on March 16, 2013. They released helium balloons in Sierra's favorite colors, each tied with a ribbon and notes containing messages of hope and love. Nearly a year later, on February 11, 2014, Antolin was formally charged. He pleaded not guilty. On Saturday, March 14, 2015, 3 years after Sierra's disappearance, her family made the incredibly difficult decision to officially end the search. For years, volunteers had conducted weekly searches, hoping to recover Sierra's body or remains. This effort became the longest ongoing search of its kind in the United States at the time. Although it was reported in September 2015 that the trial was set to begin on April 25 the following year, it faced multiple delays and didn't actually start until January 30, 2017. From the outset of the trial, the prosecutor warned the jury that the defense might argue Sierra had voluntarily run away from home. Without a body, murder weapon, or key witness, the prosecution's case relied heavily on forensic evidence, DNA samples, and circumstantial evidence. He told the jury that the evidence suggested Sierra had been bound, dragged, and placed in the trunk of Antolin's car. He also pointed out that a police officer noted a strong odor of urine on Sierra's jeans, which were found less than 4 miles from her bus stop. The discovery of the clothing, including underwear, indicated that the young girl's lifeless body was likely naked. The fact that the clothing was dirty with soil supported the theory that she had been dragged. The prosecutor also mentioned to the jury that during initial questioning, Antolin had voluntarily provided information about his sexual habits, even though no authorities had mentioned the specific type of DNA evidence found on Sierra's belongings. Sierra's mother, Marlene, took the stand to testify, speaking about her relationship with her daughter and recalling how, on the morning of March 16th, as they did every day, they had exchanged a kiss and an "I love you" before parting. She also confirmed that the clothing and other items found on the road belonged to Sierra. Next, Antolin's ex-girlfriend, who by the time of the trial had officially separated from the accused, testified for about 90 minutes. She claimed she could hardly remember any details about the morning when Sierra disappeared. During cross-examination, it was revealed that she had given inconsistent accounts regarding Antolin's whereabouts and other details over the years. She also admitted to fabricating part of her grand jury testimony, specifically about Antolin's particular method of folding and half-rolling his pants, a detail that was significant because it directly related to how Sierra's pants were found in her backpack along with the rest of her clothing. However, she told the jury that she had no way of knowing how Antolin folded his pants because he never did the laundry or put away clothes. Another key piece of evidence presented by the prosecution was a purchase Antolin allegedly made sometime before Sierra's disappearance. According to supermarket membership card records, Antolin had bought a turkey baster, a tool used for injecting sauce into meat or removing excess fat, as well as a jug of bleach. These items could be used to eliminate DNA evidence following a sexual assault. Unfortunately, the authorities were unable to recover any of these items from the accused's car or residence. The prosecutor questioned Antolin's ex about this, and she stated that she knew nothing about it. However, she noted that Antolin rarely went grocery shopping alone, especially not at midnight, the time when the purchase was recorded. She mentioned that if he had done so, her ex-partner would have mentioned buying household items. She also noted that shortly after Sierra's disappearance, Antolin and she, along with two friends, had gone to Fresno for a snowboarding trip, during which Antolin consumed cannabis. The turkey baster could have been used as a tool to make concentrated cannabis, as Antolin's lawyers later argued. The defense listed the main reasons why they believed Antolin was innocent. They pointed out that Sierra's body had never been found and questioned why her hair, found in their client's car, wasn't shown in an initial photograph but appeared later. The defense team even suggested to the jury that the driver of a brown car seen in the area where Sierra disappeared in March 2012 might be the real culprit. Although the defense was prohibited from mentioning to the jury the prior child molestation conviction that Sierra's father had served, the court documents presented by Antolin's lawyer argued that Sierra had run away because she lived in a broken home and was struggling in school. According to the defense, Sierra had moved to Morgan Hill less than a year before her disappearance and was unhappy. They also claimed that Sierra had confided in a friend about her plan to run away and had even shown her a suitcase packed with clothes. Some of Sierra's friends from Fremont testified before the jury, confirming her displeasure with the move to Morgan Hill but also expressing doubt that she would have run away voluntarily. Her friend Shannon told the court that on the day of her disappearance, Sierra had texted her saying she was excited to visit her hometown and pop some pills, referring to the narcotic known as ecstasy. The defense team argued that Sierra had been in contact with people involved in criminal activities and might have run away or been abducted by drug traffickers. However, Sierra's friends rejected this suggestion and agreed with the prosecution that her behavior and drug use were just typical teenage things. To counter the defense's claims of a possible connection between the accused and the teenager being mere coincidence, the prosecutor questioned Jeanette Kinner, a woman familiar with Antolin's social circles. Jeanette confirmed that she knew of at least one teenager who had attended school with Sierra but didn't realize the connection until after Sierra's disappearance. The defense also challenged the prosecution's assertions regarding Antolin's alleged attempts to kidnap 3 women from the parking lots of 2 supermarkets in separate incidents that took place in 2009, 3 years before Sierra went missing. The defense's primary argument was that none of the women had been able to identify Antolin in a lineup of suspects. Antolin's older sister then took the stand. She described to the jury how she and her brother had spent much of their childhood alone. She revealed that their father was in prison at the time of the trial, that he was an alcoholic who frequently beat their mother in front of them, and that he had sexually abused her from the age of 5 until she was 15. Regarding the DNA evidence presented by the prosecution, the defense told the jury that proper protocol had not been followed with the samples, and that the bag containing Sierra's clothes had been contaminated, thus compromising the genetic profile analysis. However, the prosecution emphasized that the evidence had been carefully collected and preserved. Antolin did not testify. On May 9, 2017, more than 5 years after Sierra's disappearance and following a 13-week trial, the jury deliberated for about a day and a half before notifying the judge that they had reached a unanimous verdict. Antolin Garcia Torres, then 26 years old, was found guilty of the kidnapping and murder of Sierra LaMar. He was also convicted on 3 counts of attempted kidnapping during the commission of a carjacking in relation to the 3 incidents from 2009. The judge sentenced him to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Additionally, he was required to register as a sex offender after the prosecution argued that sexual gratification was one of Antolin's primary motives for kidnapping and killing Sierra. In November 2017, Antolin's defense attorney attempted to secure a new trial, arguing that the presiding judge should have recused herself due to potential bias. However, the petition was denied by a San Francisco judge. In December 2020, Antolin refused to provide any information about Sierra LaMar's whereabouts in response to a handwritten letter sent by a journalist. Of the 4 questions posed to him, he only responded to the one regarding his innocence, reiterating that he was not guilty of Sierra's disappearance and alleged murder. The LaMar family has never held a funeral for Sierra, believing that without a body to bury, the ceremony would be meaningless. In 2022, on the 10th anniversary of her disappearance, some of the volunteers and Sierra's family gathered privately to remember the teenager. Despite the difficult circumstances and the deep desire to recover her remains for closure, Sierra's family has chosen to remember her fondly and cherish the happy times they spent together. Thanks for tuning in to Unreal True Crime. If you're intrigued by mysteries from around the world, check out our new channel, Latin Crimes, where we dive into the gripping true crime stories of Latin America. Don't miss out. Subscribe now for more thrilling investigations.